Hi, welcome to Long Falls Paperboard. We are very excited to have you joining our team, and I hope you are too. You are probably very curious to learn what is to come for you on the floor of the mill, which is why we have put together this brief overview of your position on the floor to help smooth your transition and strengthen your knowledge. Let's get started. The board machine utility position is an extremely important role, with the main jobs including assisting with threading the rewinder, performing general maintenance to ensure safety and cleanliness, transport of broken paper with the clamp truck, as well as working between stacks 1 and 2 during paper breaks, including cutting tails in the paper. We will go over each of these 4 tasks in great detail as we progress through this video. It is important to learn and perform these skills correctly in order to ensure your safety as well as the safety of your coworkers. Do not ever feel rushed into doing tasks that you are not ready for. Always ask your instructor for guidance anytime you need help. Certain areas of the board machine can be extremely unforgiving if an accident were to occur. Always make deliberate and confident actions when working near these areas. And remember, safety is always the top priority. The first task that we will talk about is threading the rewinder. This process will be mostly the same every time, so memorizing the order of events as quickly as possible will greatly decrease your overall training time. Now will be a great time to define some simple terms that I will be using for the rest of the video. There are 4 main categories that the paper can be a part of: a reel, set, roll, or broke. A reel is the untrimmed paper that comes directly off of the paper machine. A fresh reel can be expected about every hour to an hour and 15 minutes. A set is what comes off of the rewinder once the proper footage has been reached. There are usually 2 sets per reel, but there can be more or less. A roll is a single independent unit that comes out of a set. There are usually 1 or 2 rolls per set, but there can be more, up to a total of 9 rolls per set. Finally, broke is any paper that has become loose or not on any spool. The majority of broke is produced while rethreading the paper machine. Now, back to the rewinder. When a reel comes off the paper machine, assist the 3rd and 4th hands with stability of the moving reel, cleaning up broke, collecting samples, and creating a tail in the reel. These very simple tasks will be shown to you once you get onto the floor. Your main job will begin once the tail is passed through the rollers on the paper machine side of the rewinder. You will find the end of the tail sticking under the bottom roller. Pick it up and thread it behind the slitters and the green roller, known as the banana roll. Shimmy the paper through the banana roller until it pokes out on the top of the rewinder. Pull the paper up to remove slack, then toss the tail forward so that it is resting on top of the other rollers. The 3rd hand will now jog the rollers, and your job is to make the paper evenly tight all the way across, by moving the tail left or right to reduce slack. To adjust the paper in this way, you will have to shift it towards yourself and then in the direction that is too tight, making a V-shaped movement with the tail. You might not get it fully equal on the first adjustment, so continue to adjust the paper until it is completely even. Once completed, signal to your 3rd hand to stop jogging the rollers and tightly press against the paper to hold it in place. The 4th hand will now join you at the winder and take care of the left hand side, where you will focus on the right. The rollers will once again start to jog, and now you have to pull the paper out of the machine to thread the rest of the tail through and collect the trim on the right hand side. You and the 4th hand will cut the paper across the core shaft, discarding the tail as broke. Tightly place your hands on the paper once again, as the core shaft will now be lifted, and once it is, push the paper forward to ensure that there is no slack in the rollers. Adjust the cores along the shaft so that there is paper overlapping the core by 1/8 inch on either side. Once set, ensure that the paper is tight under your hands and signal to the 3rd hand that you are done. Next, tape the paper to the core with the 4th hand and step back as the gate comes down. Grab your trim and place into the blower. You will now collect the broke on the ground, and the first part of rewinding is complete. Once the set has finished winding, we must remove it from the rewinder and prepare for the next set. The utility will start by unclamping the core shaft and releasing the air pressure from within the shaft. Next, assist the fourth hand with taping up each roll in the set and writing the roll size, letter, and winder direction on each roll. The set will then be kicked out of the rewinder and lowered to the ground. Assist with stability. Pull the core shaft out of the rolls and replace new cores onto the shaft. Assist the third hand with replacing the core shaft onto the rewinder, and once ready, tighten the clamp on the left hand side to lock the core shaft into place. You will then repeat the alignment and taping process onto the cores, collect the trim, and the next set will be ready to go. Once the rolls come off the rewinder, each one needs to be prepared for transport with core plugs on either side. The rolls that will be shipped immediately also get strapped. All of the processes at the rewinder are repetitive, so learning the order as fast as possible will allow you to increase efficiency and open up more time for you to complete your other tasks. Plan for what is to come, and always try to perform these tasks as quickly as you safely can. We will next very briefly talk about the general maintenance that utilities will perform. These tasks will be shown to you in detail during your first week on the job, but to give you an idea, here's a brief list of the types of maintenance you can expect to perform. Cleaning up all the broke on the wet and dry ends of the paper machine. Sweeping the floor in the paper machine hallway as well as the broke storage room. Wiping the oil off of the paper machine and replacing the pig mats under it. Cleaning the insides of the silo tanks during boil outs and weekend shutdowns. Hauling the board machine dumpster out back and dumping it into the compactor. It is expected that you will stay busy with these tasks and others during time between real turn-ups. There is always work to be done, so staying busy is essential for good work relations with your coworkers. An extremely important job that utilities are responsible for mastering is working on the clamp truck forklift. Anytime there is a paper break or a startup, we will produce a lot of broke while rethreading the paper machine. This broke will be too heavy to move by hand, thus the clamp truck will be used. When attacking a pile of broke, always begin by presetting your forks. Do this by raising your forks up into the air, tipping them forward as far as they will go, and then dropping the height just until the tips of the forks are touching the ground. By doing this, you will not pierce through the broke with the forks, and it will make cleanup a lot more efficient. Have preset forks anytime you do not actively have a load on the truck. That way, it will be ready to attack a pile when necessary. During your first week on the job, take the time to practice your skills on the forklift. Mastery of the clamp truck is absolutely essential for when rethreading the paper machine, as you will have to be able to pull broke from under the dryers at an extremely fast pace without hitting anyone or anything. The last section of this instructional video will cover the main utility function during paper breaks, working between the first and second calendar stacks on the dry end of the paper machine. Before we get started, I must reiterate that being in the calendar stacks is dangerous, as there are lots of nip points that must be avoided. Always be alert and cautious while in the stacks, and make extremely deliberate actions. By working in a safe manner, we can avoid workplace accidents. As a rule, do not ever enter a calendar stack alone or without someone else knowing that you are in there. If you see someone else going into a stack alone, watch out for them from the hallway, ensure that they are safe, and stand by in case of emergency. In the rare case of an emergency, every calendar stack has its own e-stop button located on the tender side of the stack. By being proactive and watching out for one another, many workplace injuries can be prevented. When the time comes to thread the stacks, the first thing you need to do is remove your safety gloves. This may seem counterintuitive, however the sticky nature of your safety gloves poses a greater threat to your hands than the moving paper and your utility knife. As you enter the stack, your job is initially to pull paper away from the first stack of rollers so that it does not get sucked back in, nor obstruct the tail being threaded through the second stack. Fold the paper upon itself in front of you, leaving a couple feet of walking distance between the folded paper and the second stack behind you. Once the fourth hand has successfully threaded the entire second stack, you will then proceed to cut a tail in the paper so that the next stack can be threaded. Always ensure that the nip guard is in place before proceeding to cut the tail. To cut a tail, hold your utility knife against the bottom roller in the second stack with the blade facing up and into the paper. You will hold this position until you hear the supervisor yell "Go!", at which point you will shuffle all the way down to the right side of the stack, cutting the paper all the way through the end. If all goes well, this will be the end of the paper threading, and you can proceed to begin cleaning up. Many times the paper will break while attempting to rethread the machine, so always pay attention and be ready to perform the tasks multiple times to ensure a proper threading. As you can see, the role of the utility is extremely important for many aspects of the mill. If you have any questions about what you have seen in this training video, ask your instructor during your first week on the floor. A proper education on the roles and responsibilities of your position will ensure efficiency and safety of the workplace. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey at Long Falls Paperboard.